Alright. I'm gonna play more Narcissu today. Let me tweet out that I'm streaming. Okay. Okay, let me type in my link. Okay, let's do this. Okay. I think this is 1 and this one is 2. Yeah. Prologue, Setsumi. In front of the outpatient reception desk on the first floor. Spread on the floor many colors of plastic tape. Red, blue, green. They led the way to various departments. Out of those I followed the white tape. Walking about 30 meters on the right, the shop comes into sight. Across from that was the smoking room. On the left is the waiting room for surgical examination, and if you continue it to the end, there's a small elevator. I get on that and press the button for the highest floor. The 7th floor. Before my eyes was the nurses' station. Altogether, some nurses looked this way. But once they recognized me, their eyes turned back as if they saw nothing. They returned to their work. A high-ceiling windows that opened 15 centimeters. Here it was a white, well-lit, sterile place. And I head towards the lounge at the end of the hall on the left. A large television, a long couch. Decorating the windowsills were a number of flowers. Fitting the summer, the mini sunflowers in vases and the gerbera daisies in flower pots were blooming colorfully. Those were all familiar things. What's different from then are my clothes. Changing from sailor uniforms to pajamas. Besides that, the bracelet on my hand from blue to white was just about the only other change. You. Turning back towards the voice that called it was a middle-aged lady I don't know. Her pajamas and bracelet color says she is a resident of this place. Are you visiting someone or a patient from another floor? While shaking my head, I show her my own bracelet. Ah, I see. The lady replied uncomfortably. I felt the nuance behind those words. And so young, what a shame. Of course, I've had similar experiences, so often it was tiring. I haven't lived almost 10 years like this for nothing. It was just I never thought to have a fellow resident of the 7th floor also turn eyes of pity towards me. By the way, which time are you on? For here, coming to the 7th floor. For an instant, I had no idea what she was asking. But before I could ask a new question, it looks like this is your first. With that, she just up and acted like she understood the situation. Well, then I'll teach you too, so listen well, okay? First, in this place called the 7th floor, even though I hadn't replied, the lady just continued speaking. There is no 4th time. The 3rd time you're admitted is the last, so prepare yourself. When you want to run away, head not to Station A, but to Station B. Don't need anything. It places the least burden upon your family. She spoke about such things, and I was made to hear other things that would give one pause. Most likely it was something only the residents of the 7th floor. Only those who were headed towards death continued passing on. So you understand? Once the lady finished her broad explanation, somehow I thought her complexion looked better. For you to tell something young like you, it's upsetting. But this is also a rule, so don't be angry, okay? With that, the lady left the lounge. Her parting words were, you tell new people too, okay? Burning sunlight and the sound of cicadas. A summer sky seen from windows that can open more than 15 centimeters. Today also looked like it would be a hot day. Many years since I've come to the 7th floor, the first that I come as a resident of this place. and the rules I had been taught. In practice, they were probably passed down only among those who resided here.
でもそのいくつかを私はすでに知っていた。
Maybe it was since that day. The fact that I would face a day like today.
予感していたのかもしれない。響き渡る鐘の音。物心つく前から私はこの音と共にあった。お姉ちゃん。
Oni-chan, a form of address essentially big sister, also can be used to non-family members.
何よ千尋、そんなに息切らせて。
Chihiro.
だってほら、そろそろ急がないと。でもまたそんな格好して。あ、どうかした？もうドロドロで真っ黒じゃないの。別にいいでしょ。作業服なんだから汚れて当然じゃない。昨日洗濯したところなのに。はいはい、悪かったわね。
My little sister gave the usual grease stains a sulking look as she complained. It was the scene of a casual everyday exchange before the door on a Sunday.
あ、それよりもミサ、急がないと遅れちゃうよ。あら、もうそんな時間なのね。ささ、早く着替えて教会行きましょうね。やっぱりパス。元？ダメだよ。お姉ちゃんって普段から行ってないんだから。せめて日曜日だけは行かないと。バカね千尋。せっかくの日曜日だからこそサボるのよ。もうまたそんなへりくつ言って。まあまあ、神様だって多めに見てくれるわよ。こんな天気関係ないわよ。
She said on a day with beautiful weather.
それにどうせ今日も車いじりしてるだけのくせに。それじゃお母さんたちにもよろしくね。あ、こら、お姉ちゃんたら。
Best friend. In the garage next to the house, I strongly raised the shutters.
さて、今日も始めましょうか。
Perhaps because it was closed off, the garage was stiflingly hot. Immediately, I turned towards my beloved car under maintenance, purchased just a month earlier. It sounded good to call it a restoration, but really it was work to simply get it to run properly. First, instead of calling the chassis retro, the word scrap would fit better. Such was the age and condition of the car. However, thanks to that, I've lately been spending the weekends inside this garage.
姫子、いる？こっちこっち。どうしたの？こんな場所まで。近くまで来たからついでに寄ったんだけどさ。って何あなた、真っ黒じゃないの。昨日からオイルパンの交換やってたから。オイルパン？これがまた大変だったのよ。っていうか素人でここまでできる人は少ないわね。いや、パンだかご飯だか知らないけどさ。
Pan in Japanese means bread.
ほら見て、この自作ハンガーなんて大したもんでしょ。でもやっぱウィンチがないから苦労したわ。あのさ、姫子、 車好きもいいけどさ、年頃の娘が真っ黒になってガレージに入り浸ってるってどうよ。あ、もしかして変？もしかしなくても変。まあいいじゃない。私はね、ゆかみたいなヒラヒラの服よりこっちの方が好きなのよ。はいはい、あんたは昔っからそうよね。
She replied in a weary voice. Her name was Yuka. She also lived nearby from long ago. We often spent time together. However, our interests and personalities were polar opposites, and yet we got along for some reason. It might have been exactly because our interests and personalities were different that we got along.
もし親友と呼ばれる存在があるなら、私にとっては彼女がそれだった。でもさ、姫子も物好きよね。せっかくの初任給をこんなボロ車に使うなんてさ。ほら、ボロ車じゃなくてユーノスって言ってよ。それにこの方って古くても結構人気あるのよ。へえ、そうなの？おかげで今から冬のボーナスまでロー地獄よ。すくすく。まあまあ、それよりも早く直してドライブでも連れてってよ。おそらく来週には走れると思うわ。はい、決まり。じゃあ早速来週でも。ってそうだ、あなた日曜日は無理だったわね。ああ、別にいいわよ。でも教会あるでしょ。大丈夫よ、もう最近は全然行ってないし。所詮私はエセカトリックよ。こらこら、そんなこと言っていいの？ええ、偶然家が教会の隣だったってだけです。ただいま。おかえり。遅かったわね、千尋。あ、うん。あ、元気ないみたいだけど、もしかして7回帰り？うん、担当の人が3回目だから。そっか。じゃあいろいろと大変だね。
The seventh floor, that is the hospital's hospice. Hospice, generally known as the palliative care ward. Palliative care ward. Essentially not a typical ward, but one for patients on their final treatment options, a ward with mental care as a primary focus. For us as Catholics, volunteering as helpers had been very natural. Every day after college, my sister would head straight to the hospital. In her, I could see myself up to a few years ago.
はい、コーヒー入れてあげたわよ。ありがとう。ねえ、お姉ちゃんはもうしないの？しないのってヘルパー？うん、今はどの病院も人手が足らなくて大変なんだよ。そう。でも私はもういいわ。あなたと違って私は大学の単位が欲しくて行ってただけだし。もうまたそんなこと言って。別に嘘じゃないわよ。それよりさ、私は千尋の方が心配よ。私が？ええ、あなたみたいな子に務まる場所じゃないってこと。
My sister fell silent at those words. However, those were also my true feelings. In a way, I knew from my own experiences how useless superficial resolve was. At the least, for a kind, good girl like Chihiro, I knew that it would be painful to be a hospice helper.
どうなの今の様子は。
初めての7階だからまだ慣れてなくて。それに今の担当の人って3回目だから、もう長くないみたい。
そうね。どんなに入退院を繰り返したとしても4回目はないはずよ。
That wasn't something that the hospital publicly said. But even without saying if you were involved with the place, you'd learn it whether you liked it or not.
ねえ、お姉ちゃん。神様は一体何をやっているんだろう。
さあ、忙しいんでしょうね。
A few days later, with the main repairs on the Unos finished, we went out for a drive.
さすがにいい走りするわ。
ちょっと姫子、そんなにスピード出さないでよ。
全然安全運転じゃない。
あなたはそうかもしれないけど、ペーパーの私にはドキドキもんなのよ、その運転は。
ロードスター最高
って聞きなさいよ、人の話を。それとさ、何よこの車。
どうしたの？
なんで屋根がないのよ。
いや、だってそういうもんなんだもん。
じゃないわよ。風で髪がくしゃくしゃになっちゃったでしょ。
おバカさんね。オープンの醍醐味がわからないなんて。
そんな醍醐味、年頃の女の子に不要よ。せっかく1時間もかけておしゃれにセットしたのに。
The sun was still high and the Unos ran under the refreshing cool of a sky before the rainy season. Soon after leaving a long mountain road, the deep blue sea spread wide. The sea route continued endlessly. From nearby came the crashing of waves and seagull calls. Even the phoenix palms painted by the beach houses, each and every one was tall. It felt like visiting southern lands.
じゃあ、ちょっと休憩しようか。はい、缶コーヒー。
ありがとう。
As if she had just gotten out of the bath, Yuka had her hand on her hip and gulped down the canned coffee in one go. She was always decked out in frills, but what shows through occasionally was Yuka's true personality. And then while holding our cans of coffee, we walked out on the beach before us.
ここは綺麗なところだね。
潮風も気持ちいいし、人もいないし。
姫子、よく知ってたわね、こんな場所。
まあどこか知らないけど。
はい？
いや、言葉の通りなんだけど。
ちょっと待ちなさい。どうして運転してたあなたが知らないのよ。
実は適当に走ってたら偶然たどり着いただけだったりして。
それってもしかしてさ、今まで気の向くままに走ってただけってこと？
まあそんな感じかな。
信じらんない。2日ちゃんと家まで帰れるかも心配だけど、 こんなドライブに1日付き合わされた私も信じられない。まあまあなんとかなるから多分。
And then we spread out some newspaper on the beach and started to eat the lunch we bought at a convenience store along the way. To be honest, bringing our own lunches would have fit better, but both of our best dishes, hard-boiled eggs, couldn't be called extravagant. At the least, we should have brought a sheet.
でもさ、姫子。何？ナビがないならせめて地図くらい持ちなさいよね。
でもな、この気ままな感じも好きなのよね。
じゃあせめてその格好はやめなさいよ。
なんでよ。私作業服好きなのに。
ダメ。隣の私もなんか恥ずかしいから。
機能的なのにな。
機能よりも美しさを優先してよ。
While we chatted, the two of us continued to eat our lunches. Pines swayed in the salt breeze, and the large phoenix palms stood tall. Occasionally, seagulls came near. Though it was such an utterly perfect place, how should I say, the image of the newspaper mats, yuccas, frilly clothing, my work overalls, it was all so out of place it was laughable.
ねえ、また来週来ようか。
いいやよ。
わ、即答された。
だってさ、何が悲しくて毎週こんな2人でドライブばっかなのよ。
だってこれ2人乗りなんだもん。
そういう問題じゃないでしょ。
まあまあ、寂しいもん同士ってことで。
悔しいけど反論できないわ。
Around when the sun that had been so high was hazing over and everything that could be seen was dyed orange. Once again the Yunos drove on. We had played at the beach and now took up a quick route home. Today had been a fun day. While thinking that, I gripped the wheel.
でもさ、最近あなたって全然行ってないでしょ、教会。千尋ちゃんもぼやいてたわよ。最近お姉ちゃんは全然来てくれないって。ねえ、たまには顔出したら？
大丈夫よ。それに以前も言ったでしょ。所詮私はエセカトリックだって。だから大丈夫なのよ。
姫子？
さて、そんなわけで来週もドライブ決定ね。ああ、今度はお弁当も持ってこようか。そんで今日よりも遠くを目指してみましょうよ。
はいはい、分かったわよ。しょうがないから付き合ってあげる。
ありがとう。さすが親友ね。それから1週間後、教会には日曜学校へと向かう人があふれ、先週の予定ではロードスターで海へと向かっているはずだった頃、私の姿は病院のベッドの上にあっ
はい、お姉ちゃん、リンゴ剥いたよ。
た。ありがとう。あんたも食べなさいよ。好きでしょ。
重かった。姫子、ほら買ってきてあげたわよ。
悪かったわね。 下の売店じゃ売ってなかったのよ、その本。
別に構わないけどさ、次からはもうちょっと薄い本にしてくれる？それとあんまりマニアックな本はやめてよね。レジ持っていくのはずいから。
別にモーターサイクリストやアメ車マガジンは普通の本だと思うけど。
私にとっては違うの。まあ2人とも。ここは相部屋だからあんまり騒いじゃダメだって。ああ、そうだったわね。ごめん。
Two people who came to visit me. Nothing need be said about your hero, but even looking like this, Yuka had been the first to rush over. Even before, when I'd be in bed with a cold, complaining all the while, she'd be at my side taking care of me. She wasn't the most true to herself, but really she was very kind. That was my best friend.
美味しいわね、このメロン。
ちょっと、あんた見舞いなんだからそんなガツガツ食べないでよ。
別にいいじゃない、いっぱいあるんだし。でもさ、いきなり入院って聞いた時は驚いたわよ。私もびっくりした。なのに急いで駆けつけてみたら、
ピンピンしてて拍子抜けよね。
こら、あんたが言わないでよ。
だってみんなそんな顔してるんだもん。
そういえば千尋ちゃん、他の人は？会社の人とかたくさん来てたんだけど、さっき帰っちゃった。
ちなみに手ぶらで見舞いに来たのはあなただけよ。
うるさいわね。変な本買ってきてあげたでしょうが。
あれはちゃんと代金渡したからお使いであって、お見舞いの差し入れとは言えないわね。
相変わらずへりくつを。
でもね、やっぱ嬉しいもんよ。毎日会っているような相手でもこうやってお見舞いに来てくれるとさ。
メロンも持ってきてもらえるしね。
たまには病気も悪くないかな。
Okay, I think this is chapter 6.
気の早いセミが鳴く頃。
And a few months from then, the time when some early cicadas were calling.
春には毎日のように来ていたお見舞いの人がほとんど姿を見せなくなった頃、相変わらず私は病院のベッドの上にいた。
今日も暑いな。お姉ちゃん、もう食べ終わった？そろそろトレイを返す時間なんだけど。
私こういうの苦手なのよね。
あ、またブロッコリー残してるし。
千尋、それより売店でアイス買ってきてよ。
ダメだよ。決められたもの以外は控えなさいって言われてるんだから。
まあまあ、固いこと言わないでよ。
ダメ。それでなくてもこの前先生に注意されたところなのに。
はーい、わかりました。
もう返事だけはいいんだから。いいことお姉ちゃん。また勝手に売店で買ってきちゃダメだからね。
わかってるって。
それじゃあ私そろそろ行くね。
もしかして
7階。
そっか。あなたも無理しないようにね。
お姉ちゃんもね。
あんなに長かった夏が終わりを告げ、夕空に日暮らしの声が響く頃、
A type of cicada with a call some describe as mournful.
今も私はここに
which is the higurashi.
今日も彼女はこの場所に来ていた。
Even though I was here and today too she had come.
入るわよ。いや、元気そうね。
おかげさまでね。
よいしょっと。
あら、お見舞いの品は？
はあ？
相変わらず手ぶらのようだけど。
なーに言ってるの、当然じゃない。むしろ毎日来てる私を褒めてほしいわ。
えらいえらい、なでなで。
もうやめなさい。
じゃあね、メロン持ってきてくれたら解禁賞あげるわ。
いらないわよ、そんなの。
We had a childish conversation as she sat in the folding chair next to the bed. The scene itself by now was becoming a familiar one.
はあ、せっかくの日曜なのにな。
悪いわね、ゆか。
え？
この夏を無駄にさせちゃってさ。
別にいいわよ。もともと予定があったわけでもないし、いつもついでできてるだけなんだし。そのもうさっさと元気になりなさいよ。またドライブでも何でも付き合ってあげるから。だから
それ以上彼女の声は私の耳に届かなかった。暮れる空に響く日暮らしに消されてここに来てはやさん突然のことに自分自身まだ現実ってのが実感できなかった。
Chapter 3.
気づけば木々の色が赤く染まり、病院での生活もすっかり慣れた頃、私を訪ねてくる人は完全に途絶えても、今も私はここにいた。今日もあの二人はこの場所に来ていた。
はい、お姉ちゃん、今日はプリン付きだよ。
そう。でも今は欲しくない。千尋、あんた食べなさいよ。プリン好きでしょ？
ダメ、これはお姉ちゃんの食事なんだから自分でちゃんと食べないと。
じゃあこれ食べたら売店で肉まん買ってきてくれる？
もう変な交換条件出さないでよ。元気そうね。あ、ゆかさん。何？今日もまた好き嫌いでダダこねてるの？うん、お姉ちゃんたらしょうがないのよ。こら。千尋ちゃん困らせるんじゃないわよ。ったく、あんただけはしょうがないわね。
トレーの角で叩かなくても。
ほら、さっさと食べる食べる。無理やり口の中に入れちゃうわよ。
分かったって。さっきの冗談で言っただけなんだから。
まだ何か言ってるのはこの口か。
こらやめなさ
じゃあお姉ちゃん、私そろそろ時間だから。
先生たちにもよろしくね。
千尋ちゃん、まだ続けてるんだ。
ええ、今7階担当だから大変だと思うわ。
そっか。確かそこってホスピスだったよね。
I nodded a bit at those words. And then I finally brought up what had been in a corner of my heart for a while now. Because she was who she was, I wanted to tell her first.
ねえゆか、もしもだけどね、いつか私も7階に入ったとしたら。
ちょっと、何縁起でもないこと言ってんのよ。
聞いて。もし私が7階に行った時はもうお見舞いには来ないでね。
At those words, Yuka hung her head. I didn't want to see her sad face either. But if it really came to be that I were to go to the 7th floor, it would only make her even more sad. To see Yuka that way was the only thing I didn't think I could bear.
バカ、何言ってるのよ。むしろ毎日でも言ってやるわ。皆勤賞者よ。もちろん手ぶらでお見舞いなんて絶対に持っていかないんだから。だからそんなこと言わないでよ。
ゆか。
In that small room, her sobs hung in the air. All the years we've been together, however much we've chattered all night, we had never run out of things to talk about. For the girl crying right now, I could find no words.
吹く風が心地よいから冷たいへと変わる頃、いつものようにここへとやってくる二人。でもある日を境に少し変わった。ごちそうさま。
ちゃんとブロッコリーも食べたんだね。
ああ、本当は嫌いなんだけど。
ねえ、他に何か欲しいものない？
売店のアイスが欲しいわね。ついでに肉まんも欲しかったりして。
分かった、すぐ買ってくる。
冗談のつもりだったのに、今までどんなに頼んでもダメだったの。
ただいま。はい、ダッシュで買ってきたよ。ほら、まだ温かいから美味しいよ。アイスは冷蔵庫に名前書いて入れておいたから。
そう、ありがとう。
他にも欲しいものあったら言ってね。それで早く元気になってまた一緒に教会行こうね。
千尋、あなた口調がヘルパーになってるわよ。どうやらそういう ことのようね。隠さなくていいわ。私だって伊達にやってなかったんだから。
お姉ちゃん。
さすがに半年以上入院してたからそろそろかなって思ってたしね。驚き、悲しみ、怒り、やるせない、寂しい。もしこの時の感情を一言で表すなら、よくわからないが最も近いだろう。人は受け入れがたい現実に出会った時、自分自身のことですら客観視できるのかもしれない。冬の冷たい風が吹き、テレビにクリスマスソングが流れ出す頃、こんな時にもずっとそばにいてくれる二人。まだ私自身告知されていないけど、7階へと行く日はそう遠くないのだろう。
メリークリスマス。
はいはい、メリークリスマス。
ほらお姉ちゃん、ケーキ買ってきたよ。あら、美味しそうね。
って何いきなり食べてるのよ。
もういいじゃないよ、いっぱいあるんだから。
こら、当然のようにイチゴ取るんじゃないわよ。
ちょっとゆかさん、ちゃんと皿に分けるから。はーい。美味しかったね。
そうね、ほとんどゆかが一人で食べ尽くしたけど。
何よ、今日みたいな日にまで来たんだから、これくらいいいでしょ。本当なら今頃は素敵なイブを満喫してる頃なのに。
嘘ばっかり。どうせ相手なんていないくせに。
悔しいけど反論できないわ。あとお姉ちゃん、これクリスマスプレゼント、マフラー編んでみたの。あんまりうまくないかもしれないけど。
ありがとうね、千尋。
ほんと姫子にはもったいないよくできた妹よね。
うるさいわね。相変わらず手ぶらのあんたが何言ってるのよ。
まあまあ、二人とも。
A common everyday exchange. A kind sister, a best friend with a mouth, laughing over silly things. The picture of the many typical days that had passed over the years. What was different is that today is Christmas, and this is the hospital's 5th floor, and soon I will be headed to the 7th.
じゃあさ、千尋、ついでにもう一つ欲しいものがあるんだけど、いいかな。
何？
ユーノス持ってきて。車庫にあると思うから。
でもお姉ちゃん。
悪いわね。 うしても乗りたいのよ。
Opening the curtains and gazing out at the city at night from the fifth floor window. In that clear winter sky, even the large face of the moon shone. And soon this view, I'll probably see it from a higher place. I'll probably be gazing from a window that can only open 15 centimeters.
いいわよ。持ってきてあげる。ゆかさん。
さすが親友ね。
クリスマスくらい手ぶらじゃ悪いと思っただけよ。
じゃあ行くわよ。
ええ。
ねえ、寒くない？
This is number 10.
激寒よ。
やっぱりこの季節は向いてないわね。
乗る前に気づきなさいよ。
まあそうよね。ゆか、前の場所に行きたいんだけどさ。
あの海？
うん。でも自信ないよ。ナビも地図もないし。
別にいいわよ。好きなように走りなさい。クリスマスの夜は長いんだからさ。
そうね。分かったわ。名も知れぬ道を走るロードスター。暗い夜空が少しずつ白み出すと。
Does anyone know if this song is copyrighted or not? Around when the dark night was slowly lightening, it was headed toward that beach.
こんなことをしたくなったんだろうか。その厳密な理由、自分でもわからなかった。
The crashing of waves could be heard unchanged from that spring day the phoenix palm stood tall. And just when the dark night gave way to the dawn, before we knew it, we arrived at that place.
着いたわね。ほんとよく無事に着いたもんね。
どう？悪くないでしょう。私の運転もこの
まあ寒いの除けばね。そうだ、缶ジュース買ってきてあげる。暑い、すごい暑いわね、この自販機。姫子、あんたコーヒーでよかったっけ？じゃあミルクティーにする？もう早く決めてよ。120円とはいえ私が怒るなんてめったにないんだからさ。ほら、何でもいいから欲しいの言ってよ。
何でも？
うん。
じゃあ地図が欲しいかも。
地図？地図ってあの地図のこと？
うん。代わりにユーノスあげるから。 大切にしてね。
そんな悲しいこと急に言わないでよ。
どうやら私7回行きみたいなんだ。もしかしたら罰が当たったのかもしれないね。だからさ、よかったらもらってくれる？ユーノス。
無理だよ。私には受け取れないよ。
それでね、ゆか、前にも言ったけど、もうお見舞いには来ないでほしいの。あなたがそんな顔すると私も辛いから。響き渡る鐘の音。教会に日曜学校へと向かう人があふれ、冬の寒さが本格的になった日、私の手首に巻いた腕輪は青から白へと変わった。結局ユーノスは受け取ってもらえなかったけど、翌日私の手元には地図が届いた。どうしてこんなものを欲しがったのか。やはりその厳密な理由は自分でもわからなかった。ただそれ以来彼女と会うことはなかった。彼女の皆勤賞はそこで止まった。
15th summer.
眩しかった日のこと。そんな
Those dazzling days, those summer days. Burning sunlight and the sound of cicadas. Today also looked like it would be a hot day. The third summer I faced since the day I was first hospitalized. Of course, it's not like I was hospitalized the whole time. They were days interrupted with home and outpatient care.
半年前だろうか、最後に来てくれたのは。
The time I spent wearing pajamas slowly grew, and as if in direct proportion, the number of people who came to visit me shrank. My first classmates came to visit me every day, people that were once called friends, but now they had turned into acquaintances. Even if I meet them on the street, they'd leave ever exchanging a few words of greeting. Soon those acquaintances will turn to strangers, and someday I'll probably be erased from their memories.
どうやらいい気がしないのだろう。普通に生きてる人にとって私の存在ってのは。
Even if they meet me, it probably doesn't raise their spirits. And probably the same goes for thinking about me.
だから消すことにしたのだと思う。
Yet whenever the end of the school day came, every day I continued to watch for someone to come. And then, after half a year of waiting, I stopped looking outside. Finally, I remembered to close the curtains, accepted the fact, guessed at the reason.
3年もかけて私にも分かるようになった。
It's not that they had forgotten about me. It seemed they made as if from the start they never knew me, never saw me. As if there had been nothing there to begin with.
彼らもまた目をつぶっていたいのかもしれない。
Around when I was admitted in and out of the hospital, when people had already stopped coming to visit me and I had most likely been erased from everyone's memories, my family moved from the freestanding home we had long lived to an apartment, and mother started working part-time in a nearby takeout lunch shop. The meaning behind it all even I could understand. Hospital fees were no joke. In the ward every day it was a conversation topic for the patients. I came to know how the patients themselves felt the responsibility to their families more than the families could imagine, and then the small old slightly dirty wooden building that was our new home. On top of being smaller, father's daily commute stretched to over 2 hours. Meanwhile, the distance I had to take to the hospital became a 3-minute walk. In front of that beat-up, cramped apartment, father said, "The air here is nice and feels good, doesn't it?" Saying that, he smelled and mother smelled in the same way. Because the heat might aggravate my health, they put an air conditioner in my room. Of course, no other room had one. And mother, who had started going to that part-time job, often brought back croquettes and fries for me, saying they were leftovers. In that cramped room we were together always, they smiled happily. It was very painful. Their thoughtfulness was unbearably painful. Instead of feeling thankful or happy, I was filled with guilt. It's your fault. Probably that's
そう言ってほしかったのかもしれない。
Probably that's what I wanted them to say. I wanted them to blame me more. Being treated kindly hurt. I remember uncontrollable feelings of irritation and even anger towards myself. If God were around, I wanted him to quickly heal me, or if that was impossible, to let me die now. Everyone else was in the middle of erasing my existence, but in contrast, my parents sought to make me stand out. That was much more painful. Even as I was being treated kindly, I hated myself for being unable to repay it. I cursed the fact that one of the countless misfortunes in the world happened to fall on me by chance. In such times, smiling and putting on a cheerful air may have been what I was supposed to do, but all I was able to manage was to quietly eat the fries that I really didn't like very much. The burning sun and cries of cicadas. When the white rainy season clouds cleared and it had turned completely to summer, after being readmitted to the hospital for the nth time, finally I was just discharged, but that wasn't the end of things. The word discharge also meant, until the next time I was admitted, the beginning of a long life of outpatient care. Under the blazing sky today, I again walked the 3 minutes distance in my pajamas. To my mother, who had offered to come along, I replied, "It's all right." My own way, it was supposed to be out of consideration for her, but the desolate look on her face at my words had also hurt. My feet happened to stop before some school. Most likely it was an elementary school, and since it was already summer vacation, there weren't many people in sight. In front of that empty schoolyard, for some reason, I wound up gazing. Without thinking, my feet had stopped. Occasionally, I would see happy children running around, and my eyes would follow them. Under the blazing sky, the long-sleeved pajamas were hot. I felt strongly out of the place gazing at the schoolyard. After standing there for a while, I once again began to walk. However, not towards the hospital, but home. And once I returned to my home, I took out the sailor uniform that had been put in my dresser. Sleeves that I had pressed my arms through in 3 years, just like new uniform. Previously, they had been worn for only a single week, and now, to me, they were only clothes other than pajamas I owned. Once again walking under the blazing sky, the noisy cicadas and running sweat was the same as just before. But the people who walked by, their eyes did not pause upon me. Even I, as a part of the backdrop of the city, as a part of what builds up everyday life, felt accepted. And then when I entered the schoolyard from earlier, before my eyes was a metal bar for small children to play with. I extended my hands toward it. Placing strength into my arms, I pulled with all my might and kicked at the ground. A moment's sensation of floating, and my body spins around.
まだ大丈夫。
I whispered that aloud for some reason while I looked around from atop the bar. The strong sunlight made the playground seem white, and the heat made the ground look wavy. Occasionally, I would hear the voices of happy children and the insistent voices of cicadas declaring that summer was their season. With my arms already beginning to shake from supporting my weight, I soaked up the present. Why was it that I suddenly wanted to do this, I wonder? The exact reason not even I knew. But now the times I wore anything but pajamas dwindled. The pressure from the need to do otherwise had also disappeared. Did I find that to be sad, or perhaps I wanted to test if I still had the strength?
私はみんなと同じはず。
Should it be the same as the normal people who were over there? So just from a somersault around a bar, I should be making such a strained face. Because I felt that way, I forced myself to make a smile. But just as I was unable to stop the shaking of my arms, it seemed that too was difficult for me.
Narcissus. 暑い。
Even though it was still morning, the asphalt looked wavy from the heat. Today also looked like it would be a hot day. And in that, as always, I headed towards the hospital alone. With this distance, even though I could have gone in pajamas when I had to go out, I've come to wear my sailor uniform. Most likely I was still wavering. How long this wavering will continue, not even I knew. One day, I may suddenly just be able to give up. It was just that I had come to think that the span of 3 years was more than enough time for a person to change. Then passing by the school and as the entrance to the hospital was before my eyes,
また取りかかってる。
in my hands was a small tote bag. I noticed that the button that held the handle was fraying off. How long it had been like that I didn't know, but coming all this way, I wasn't going to go back home. So I held the bag to my chest and continued towards the hospital. The usual doctor, the usual exchanges, and today's examination ended. When my body's condition was stable, it was once a week, 3 times a week seemed to be a sign of short hospitalization. With this, the week's examination was over, as I thought that I headed towards the exit on the first floor. In the afternoon, the doctors weren't seeing patients, so the halls were mostly empty. Occasionally, a doctor would walk by with a group of intern-like people in tow. Nurses rushed to the first aid window. A patient, probably under dietary restrictions, was in the shop buying snacks. The wristband was visible green, which I heard was for digestive disorders. All of this was just the ordinary, everyday hospital. And in front of that shop was the first time that I met her.
ねえあなた。
Suddenly, a bright voice called out to me and surprised me. Turning around before me was the pajama-clad figure of an once Oni-san I didn't recognize. I had thought it might have been someone I met while I was admitted here, but I didn't recall the face or figure.
何か。
それボタン取れかかっているわよ。
As she spoke, she pointed to my tote bag. It might have been a simple act of kindness, but since I had already noted the problem, I had trouble finding a reply.
そうね。
そうねってそれだけ？他に言うことは？
どうも。
As I spoke, I lowered my head a bit, because I already knew a reply came out hesitatingly. But even then, it was too difficult to say thank you very much. The only Sen that I hadn't seen before, her long black hair and bright voice left an impression. Looking at her slippers, the kind provided by the hospital, she was probably not an outpatient, Ben admitted. Looking at her thin wrist, her wristbands were white. Her wristband was white. That was a color I hadn't seen before.
ねえ、直してあげよっか。私、ソーイングセットも持ってるから。
でも
At her sudden words, I hesitated, but not for a button that didn't mean much. These past few years, because my existence was always being erased, I've had absolutely no experience with someone actively trying to relate with me.
いいからいいから。ほら、いらっしゃい。大丈夫よ。別に変な場所じゃないから。
With those words, she started walking briskly, and while wrapped in mixed feelings, I followed behind. We got into the elevator. Without a word, she pressed the button for the highest floor.
7階
あら、もしかして知ってた？
それほどは
The seventh floor, the place they called the hospice. I wasn't too familiar with it, and of course, I've never been there. For one thing, I heard that people not involved with it were barred from entering. It probably meant that if this only Chan here were headed to the seventh floor, she was a person from there. Soon the elevator reached its stop, and right in front of the door was the nurses' station. And when the doors opened altogether, the gazes of the nurses turned toward us.
私の知り合いだから。
With that one sentence, they once again went back to their work, and no one looked towards us anymore. It was just my first time here, but without putting my finger on it, I thought the atmosphere was especially heavy. The place the Oni-san finally took me to looked like a lounge area. It was very different from the third or other floors that I've been admitted to. Those didn't have these sofas or the TV.
すぐに直してあげるわね。
And with that, she took my tote bag with what seemed like a practiced hand, fixed the button. And like her, I sat down in the sofa and watched. Even if I looked around, there were few signs of people. Occasionally, an elderly or helper-like person going by was about all.
ところであなた、風邪でもひいたの？それとも誰かのお見舞い？
今は通院中だから。
I hesitated over how to answer, but said the truth. I added that I had been discharged recently and was an outpatient now.
あなたも大変そうね。ちなみに部活は何やってるの？
部活？
だって今は夏休みのはずでしょ？
As she spoke, she pointed at my uniform.
入院してたくらいだから文化部かしら。もしくは運動部のマネージャーとか。
別に何もやってない。
あら、意外な回答だったわね。もしかしてパジャマは嫌い？
At the sudden perspective question, I couldn't find the words to respond with. It's not that I hated pajamas, but I sensed that the precise reason would be difficult to put into words. And what was that Oni-san had asked? It was probably aimed straight at that. She hadn't simply been asking whether I liked pajamas literally.
お姉さんはここの人。
ええ、こう見えても7階の住人よ。手っ取り早く言えば死亡確定者ってことね。
That which I had only known on the level of rumors was now clearly spelled out by a resident of the 7th floor. She used the word death in such bright and relaxed tones. At the least, it didn't seem like I could comprehend. This person on Earth could her thoughts be.
ねえねえ、よかったらまた遊びに来てよ。
私が
何もやることがなくて退屈なのよ。それにここは面会時間も遅くまで大丈夫だから。
And with that, she told me various things about the 7th floor. Up until now, it had been vague, but it seemed like that the rumors that it was a place to wait to die were true.
他にもルールとかあるんだけど、これ以上は言えないわ。
どうして？
そりゃ決まってるじゃない。あなたはここの住人ではないからよ。
It was only then that when she whispered that did her face cloud. I felt that expression held loneliness and seemed filled with intensity as well. Right now I was wearing these clothes steeped with the lingering regret for once normal days. And unlike myself, this only san of these residents of the 7th floor had probably given up on everything and already had made up their resolve.
ついに来たついでにでも寄ってよ。どんなに頑張ってもあと半年くらいだからさ。
She said that, and by way of farewell, she once more turned her cheery face toward me. Long black hair, white wristband, and a bright, relaxed way of talking were my impressions. Still, neither of us knew the other's name. I'm going to, let's see. There's only music on YouTube. Okay, let me see. Okay, I don't know where I'm at. Still, neither of us knew the other's name. My 15th summer. My 15th summer, this was our first meeting. A few days later, again I visited the hospital. However, it wasn't like it was an examination day. It's alright. If it's alright with you, come to play. The words of the Oni-san I met a few days ago. Maybe because I was somehow concerned about that 7th floor place, or maybe I was curious for some reason. I came to the highest floor. With a nod to the nurses who looked my way, I made my way to the door that the Oni-san had told me. Oh yes, come in.
はい、どうぞ。
来たわよ。
いらっしゃい。待ってたわ。さ、座って座って。今日は暑かったでしょう。
Sitting up in her bed, she offered the folding chair next to her. The room on the 7th floor that I entered felt a little different from the 3rd floor rooms I was used to.
悪かったわね。でもね、きっと来てくれると思ってたわ。あなた、暇だし。
何？ なんで決めつけなのよ。
だって私たち病人の仕事は寝ることでしょ。世の中でこんな暇な人はいないわ。あら、そう思わない？
別に。
もう相変わらずクールね。ってそうだねえ、あなたアイス好き？あれ？じゃあ嫌い？
うん。
はい決まり。じゃあ食堂まで一緒に食べに行きましょう。遠慮しなくていいって。お姉さんおごってあげるから。
よく知らない人についてっちゃダメ。
は？
お母さんにそう言われてる。なんで笑うのよ。
ごめん、悪気はないから本当に。でも確かにその通りね。知らない人についてちゃダメよね。姫子よ。
え？
お姫様の姫に子供の子。ついでに言うと天秤座の AB 型。あなたは？
水亀座の O 型。節に。
じゃあこれで知り合いね、節に。
焼けた日差しとセミの声、この真っ白な7階にも響いていた。姫子と名乗るお姉さん。まだ私はお姉さんのことを何も知らないけど、この日から長い夏が始まろうとしていた。
祈ることを諦めた。透き通る空の朝、どんな気持ち抱えてても誰にも届かないなんて、まるで私はエコー、狭く白い部屋からは同じ景色が見える。当たり前だけを望んだささやかな運命でさえ儚いものと知った。We anything to forget, we very see love.
1999. The long summer was beginning. Okay, this is chapter 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, that seems about right. Okay. I'll do chapter 5. Vanilla Ice. Following the Oni-san, I mean Himiko-san, we came to the first floor cafeteria. We went up to a convenient table and sat next to each other. Maybe it was because it was right at lunch. The cafeteria was surprisingly crowded, not only with people from outside, but also people who seemed involved with the hospital. As for myself, because my home was closed, I never used it before, but more people seemed to use it than I had thought.
何でも好きなの言ってね。
And then Himiko-san passed over a menu with a practiced air.
ゆっくり選んでくれていいわよ。チョコでもミントでもシャーベットでもなんでも好きなのにしてね。
She happily continued with her words. However, no matter how much I looked at the menu, it didn't seem like I had much to debate over.
じゃあ私はちょっと待った。はい。
ズバリ私が予想してみましょう。
For some reason, when she interrupted me, she confidently started making her prediction. Certainly, this was a menu with many different set meals and drinks. But from the start, the key item ice cream only came in vanilla. There wasn't really anything to predict here.
そうね。あなたの雰囲気からするとバニラね。どう？もしかして当たってる？
これは何かの冗談。
違う！そこはメニューそれしかないじゃんって突っ込んでくれないと。
I didn't really get it, but the Oni-san got fired up by herself.
もういいわ。じゃ買ってくるから。
As she spoke, she got up from her seat and quickly went to buy. What was that just now, I wonder?
はい、お待たせ。
In a bit, Himiko-san returned. However, on the train, there were 4 ice creams.
とりあえず1人ノルマ2個だからね。
Why? As the thought came to me as faster than I could ask it, she placed 2 dishes in front of me, as if that's how it was supposed to be. And she started eating before I did.
おいしい。やっぱ夏場はこれに限るわよね。
With a nod, I also started eating. It was a sherbet-like ice cream and fit the season with its light taste.
説明おいしい？
うん。
じゃあさ、もっと嬉しそうに言ってみて。
美味しい。
ああ、そうじゃなくってもっとこう、なんていうかさ。
All this time, I wonder, just what in the world does she want me to do?
じゃあね。うまいぞーって言ってみて。
うまいぞ。
ほほ。では次の問題です。
問題？
まずシャンデリアを10回言ってください。あ、素早く言わないとダメだからね。
シャンデリア、シャンデリア、シャンデリア、シャンデリア。
では毒リンゴを食べたのは？
白雪姫。
正解よ。
Maybe she wanted me to answer Cinderella?
さて、いよいよ盛り上がってまいりました。てなわけで 自己紹介タイムよ。
And Himiko-san was still charging herself up on her own. In these sorts of situations, I guess I should go along with at least a little bit. Well, that's what I wound up thinking, but it felt impossible for me.
ねえねえ、節美の趣味って何？
特にない。
じゃあお料理とか得意だったりして？
別に。
意外なとこでカラオケ好きだったりとか、しかもアニソン好きで夏マシンガン歌えるとか。
Neko Neko Soft Natsu wa Machine Gun Song, famed for the amazing speed of the stream of consciousness. The stream of consciousness lyrics are shouted by Mizu Airo Shindu. It is rumored that people have sung the karaoke in real life.
全然。
それじゃ今度は私の紹介する番ね。
Just when I wondered if I said all that much, Himiko-san suddenly stood up. Other people wondering what was going on looked over, but it seemed she didn't mind that at all.
こう見えても私すっごい車好きなの。なんと国内 A 級まで持ってるのよ。えへん。
She even straightened up proudly and was excessively wound up. But to me, if I was told national rank A, I had no idea what that meant.
それってすごいの？
Ah, well, not that much, and in a flash her energy disappeared. And as for me, instead of that, I was more interested in something else.
なになに？質問 OK よ。ロータリーエンジンとか得意だから。
そうじゃなくて、そんなの食べていいの？
ああ、そういうことね。
Before my eyes, Himiko-san continued to gobble up her ice cream. It might have been obvious, but ice cream was not supposed to go over well with the sick. Of course, I didn't know much about Himiko-san's illness, but at least I knew she was someone from the 7th floor. Just lookingly at it, normally a sick person shouldn't be eating that much ice cream. But to my question, hey, do you...
あなた知ってる？7階の面会時間って。
うん。
I was answered with another question. What it had to do with being able to eat ice cream I couldn't see, but I honestly shook my head. I'm sure that on the 3rd floor where I was always admitted, it was from 3 in the afternoon until 8 at night. However, only on Saturdays mornings were allowed, and I figured the other floors probably had similar arrangements.
なんと7階だけは24時間 OK なのよ。ついでに言えば食事制限も特になし。
そうなの？
うん、そりゃ無茶な大食いはダメだけど、基本的にいつでも好きなものを食べていいの。
While answering, she started to quickly eat ice cream again.
たくさんの制約があった病棟から。7階ではいきなり自由になるのよね。
Himiko-san laughed happily as she replied. However, the next words she spoke were in a totally different tone.
説にこの意味がわかるわね。
I gave a small nod. What is a hospice? To that, there are people who say it is a place to wait new treatments, but well as people who say that it is a place to ease the heart. I'm sure that both of those were probably right. But for myself, it seemed like Himiko-san's words were more understandable.
そんなわけでいつでも来てよね。今だから。
With that, her usual cheery face returned. Normally she was like this, but I felt that once in a while the facial expressions and words she used were very severe. Which one was the real Himiko-san, I didn't know. Most likely both of them were. Around when the sun, which had been so high, was setting. After I left the hospital, I returned home.
な。
home. At the empty front door, my voice reverberated. From that closed-off room, the moment I opened the door, a blast of hot air had come out. I opened the living room window and let the air outside. Even just that much cooled the room. Looking at the clock, it was 4 o'clock, still early for Mother to come home. I placed my slightly sweaty sailor uniform in the washing machine and changed into pajamas. And then, after I finished washing the rice to help out Mother, who would be returning soon, I finished the preparations for making dinner. Since I was feeling well at this point, I set myself to doing at least this much. Really, I could just relax in my room, but instead switched on the fan in the living room. Father and Mother are working in the middle of this heat. For me alone to be in a cool, air-conditioned room, it gave me a bad feeling and I couldn't do it. She's home.
ただいま。
おかえりなさい。
Mother returned from her part-time job. Almost always around this time, she would come home.
節美、もう晩ご飯済ませた？
まだ。
じゃあ一緒に食べましょう。今日もたくさんコロッケもらってきたから。
Sitting at the table across from each other, the two of us started an early dinner. Because Father's commute had lengthened, she often came home late, and so the times the two of us ate like this, separate from him, increased.
どう？美味しい？あ、よかったらポテトも食べてね。あなた好きでしょ？
With that, Mother offered the plate of fries. Before I had continued to eat them silently, since then it seemed Mother thought I liked them.
実はお母さんね、昨日からポテトあげる係になったのよ。だから実はこれだけ残り物じゃなかったりしてね。あ、別に心配いらないわよ。あなたが好きだって言ったらね、お店の人たちも好きなだけ持って帰れって言ってくれているんだし。
Cheerfully, happily, Mother spoke on. Exactly what were the conditions that led the people at the store to say that I didn't know. But just from imagining it, I was filled with guilt. For some reason, I was just pained.
じゃあ、これからも楽しみにしていてね。
In front of such a mother, all I could do was just stay quiet and continue eating the fries, trying as best as I could to eat as if they were delicious. A few days after, with the usual cicadas and the sun consecutively setting record heat, under such a sky I came here once again. A high ceiling, a white room, a small folding chair which I sat. However, even though I came here, it was just I came here, simply that. It's not like we talked about anything special, and at the least I never brought up any interesting conversation topics. It was just on the level of sitting next to the unilaterally chatting Himiko-san, making uninteresting responses.
一つ質問だけど、
Decisively, I tried asking a direct question.
私といて楽しい？
あなたといると退屈知らずよ。
嫌味？
とんでもない。すっごく楽しいわよ。すつみちゃんラブラブって感じかしら。
Maybe she's toying with me? I couldn't help thinking that, but Himiko-san was always like this. One-sidedly getting all worked up whatever I said and cheerfully following her own pace to the end. And then, just when I had that exchange... Good afternoon. The person who came in was an older lady I didn't recognize. It was the first time I saw anyone come to this room. Miyako-san, how are you feeling?
ああ、特にって感じかしら。
Today is a bathing day. What shall I do?
大丈夫よ。お気遣いどうもね。
Then if there's anything, feel free to say. With those final words, the lady I didn't know left the room again. At first I thought it was a family member, but it seemed to be otherwise. Maybe it was a helper since she was wearing an apron, she seemed like the one. It was just that I felt she was somehow different from the other people I knew called helpers.
今の人は
ああ、ヘルパーの人よ。別の人の担当だけどね。
It seemed that I was right that she was a helper. But because there really didn't seem to be a difference, Himiko-san explained about helpers here. It seemed like the helpers of the general words were generally supposed to help people in their physical sense. Depending on the hospital, it could be a job, and there also seemed to be someone who looked upon it as a form of part-time work. Compared to that, the 7th floor helpers, because mental care was relatively important, if you came thinking it was a part-time job, you apparently wouldn't be accepted.
まあ、少なくともこの病院、この7階では全員ボランティアのはずよ。
そうなんだ。偉いんだね。
I was a bit impressed. It might have been obvious, but I had heard that those who have not been informed beforehand cannot enter the 7th floor. For those people who, by their own choosing, volunteer for free, for the sake of those patients, I plainly felt admiration. But at my reaction,
そう
Himiko-san,
ね。偉いわね。
she replied without conviction. Looking at it normally, you'd think you'd sense a bit of something like appreciation in Himiko-san's words from before. Those signed to someone else, but that someone else nagged at me. From those words, one would think that Himiko-san's assigned helper also existed somewhere, but so far I had never seen anyone like that.
姫子さんの担当の人は。
いないわよ。
いない。どうして？
だって私には必要ないもん。
Plainly, that was the only answer she gave. I didn't really understand, but maybe the 7th floor helpers could be refused if the patient said so. Certainly, Himiko-san, when compared to the other people for the 7th floor, walked normally and, because she was so young, was lively, but come to think, since I've come here, I had not once seen any family members come to visit.
でも今はあなたが来てくれたからね。
It's as if she saw what I was thinking and replied.
ありがとう。これで残り3つになったわ。
残り3つ。
ええ。年の
Yeah,
離れ
that
た友
leaves
達が
3.
欲し
Yeah,
か
I
ったの
wanted a
よ。
friend from different age groups.
ほらよくあるじゃない。死ぬまでにしたい10のことって。
And she lightly used the word dying. That might also be because she's of the 7th floor, but not to have that word said in a cheery voice suddenly was jarring. However, the 10 things not one wants to do before dying, what they were, I didn't know, but how much time Himiko-san had left, I also didn't know. Looking at it the other way, I could say there were 3 things remaining.
まああれよ説明。聖書が正しければ世界は7日で作られたそうよ。
だから
私に残された時間でも大抵のことは可能だと思わない？
それ例えになってないわよ。
まあそんなこと言わずにさ。残り3つなんだからよかったら付き合ってよ。
It looks like we've become friends, the 2 of us. About the first week of meeting, I've been asked to go along with the 3 remaining things to do before dying. Miko-san's words, I didn't know how serious she was, but it seemed that I would probably be coming to this place often. As the sun slowly sank and the sky strained orange, I left the hospital. Today I may have been at the hospital too long. As I was thinking that, my eyes landed on the schoolyard again. There were children running around happily. Even the metal bar I did the somersault on had plenty of patrons today. Summer vacation desk, the voice of Higurashi, sweaty playing children, each and everything were the everyday parts that build up the sense of a common summer day. There was nothing out of place. No one who made a strained face like mine from a single somersault. Oni-san, what's wrong? As I continued to stand gazing, one child that was playing spoke to me. Did you want to play with the bar?
別に何でもないわよ。
With just that answer, I turned on my heel. Looking up, the sky already darkening, I hurried along the road home.
ただいま。
おかえり。ちょうど晩ご飯の支度ができたところよ。
Looking at the clock, it was already about 7. Today, Mother had come home first. Together with Mother, we began our usually early
そう
dinner.
いえば今日は遅かったわね。
ちょっと病院寄ってたから。
あら、今日って検診の日だっけ？
そうじゃないけど。
I worried about how to answer. How should I talk about Himiko-san? Being an acquaintance seemed safe, but after thinking about it, I decided to answer like Himiko-san said.
友達のところに行ってたから。
友達？
Mother repeated my words back at me. She also had a surprised, unbelieving sort of expression. However, Mother having that kind of reaction was probably unavoidable. For the word friend to come out of my mouth was itself rare, while at the very least in these past few years it probably had been impossible.
そうよかったわね、節美。お友達ができて。
And this time she happily continued speaking. To that happy mother I spoke about the events that happened up until now. That she was a very nice Oni-san. A very kind Oni-san. That lately I've been going to play every day. That often I was taken to go eat ice cream.
へえ、優しそうなお姉さんね。
It's not. Like I was lying. But I wasn't able to say that she was a resident of the 7th floor. Why I thought that, I didn't know the exact reason. Being on the 7th floor wasn't Himiko-san's fault. It was no one's fault, I knew that. Because I was in a similar position, because at some point the people I knew disappeared. I knew it even more so. It's probably the feeling of not wanting to worry her. I'm sure that Mother would imagine that it was another normal patient, or perhaps a nurse. But to deny that didn't seem like something I could do.
そうだ。じゃあ明日からお弁当も作ってあげようか。
え？
この距離でもわざわざ帰ってくるの面倒でしょ。
Mother continued being happy. Lately my health has been good, and probably hearing I had made a friend made her extra happy. I wouldn't say it out loud, but I think it hasn't been since the 6th grade trip. She had always put my effort into making lunch for me.
任せて。豪華なの作ってあげるから。
In front of such a happy mother, I could say nothing. As always, all I could do was quietly eat the fries. Okay, I will do one more chapter. Hot. Even though it was still morning, it felt like midday. Today looked like it would be a hot day. In that walking the 3-minute distance again, I was headed toward the hospital. In my hands, the usual tote bag with a pattern of yellow sunflowers on white. Nothing in particular had changed from yesterday. It was just another summer day. What differed was hidden inside the tote bag lunch that Mother had made for me. Called from far away, I turned towards a familiar voice.
どうしたの？こんな場所で。
待ってたのよ。ちょっと手伝ってほしくって。
With just those words, Himiko-san quietly started walking. Just where she was going? Wherever it was in the main entrance, but the rear. While not knowing what was happening, I followed along. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we are. The place we'd come to was the hospital's courtyard. Around the small fountain was a clock and many flower beds. While I had been hospitalized, it had been a place I came to numerous times.
ここがどうかしたの？
ほらそこ見てよ。
Where Himiko-san was pointing at the corner of the flower bed, roughly 3 meters square. It was just that even though there was grass and flowers blooming around it, that patch alone had nothing growing in it.
そんなわけで、じゃ
何それ？
ー球根よ球根。今からここに植えようと思ってね。
Proudly, Himiko-san took out a bulb from the plastic bag in her hand and showed me. Counting them up, there seemed to be around 100. Sure, if 2 people were planting, it'd be done in about an hour. But I was worried about something else.
勝手に植えていいの？
だってこの区画は冬用の場所だし。
私が尋ねたのは勝手にの部分よ。
大丈夫だって別に怒られたりしないから。
That really didn't feel like much of an explanation, but winter use probably meant that it was for flowers that bloom in the winter. And I understood that for that reason, now was the time to plant them. But even though I didn't see how that connected with planting in the hospital's flower beds without permission. Or were the people of the 7th floor permitted this much freedom?
じゃあ始めましょうか。10センチほど掘ってから球根を埋めてね。
When she said that, she handed the bag of bulbs and the small gardening trowel over. Recently, my health had been fine, so this wasn't a problem, but I wonder if it was alright for Himiko-san to work under this blazing sky. I couldn't help but worry about that, but Himiko-san herself was planting with amazing vigor. Maybe gardening was a hobby? One might believe that since her hands moved unnaturally well.
そうそう。そんな感じで軽く土もかけてね。
Once in a while, as I watched and imitated her, she would give instructions.
これって
水仙よ。
Say, what flowers are these? Daffodils, you know of them?
名前くらいは。
Even so, I could only remember that they were white flowers. Having only them blooming on TV or in a book, this was the first time I held a bulb like
あ
this.
のね、これって珍しいのよ。今の時期にあるなんて。
そうなの？
本来は夏の終わり頃だからね。
And then Himiko-san taught me various things. That the scientific name was Narcissus from the family Merillidaceae. How you could grow them from seeds, but since they take a few years to bloom, bulbs are planted instead. How in the deep of winter, when the flower beds were a lonely place, their single proud blooming form was impressive and beautiful.
やっぱり園芸が趣味なの？
別に趣味ってわけじゃないわよ。
じゃあどうして詳しいの？
どっちかというと職業柄かな。
Okay. A gardener or florist, but before she had said she liked cars. I didn't really understand. I still really don't know much about Himiko-san.
何にしてもこれが咲く頃には私はいないけどね。
And is always cheerfully talking about other things that make you stop short. What I knew was that she was a resident of the 7th floor and that the rest of her time was within sight. And paying that no heed, she does things she does these things and was a person who could be called carefree.
さて、だいたい終わったし、そろそろ部屋に帰りましょう。
Together we carefully washed our hands and headed to the 7th floor. Right in front of us, as we got off the elevator, was a large cart carrying lunch. It was already that time. And so, with Himiko-san's lunch tray in hand, we went back to the room. Normally, when this time came, I'd be heading back home to eat lunch.
ねえセツミ、一緒に食堂行く？あなたも家まで帰るのめんどくさいでしょ。
Holding her own tray, Himiko-san made the suggestion. Normally, I would have wound up thinking it over, but today was a bit different.
今日私お弁当持ってきてるから。
あなたお弁当持ってきてるの？
お母さんが作ってくれたから。
As I spoke, I took out the lunchbox from my tote bag and opened it on the small table near the bed. And the frozen barley tea I brought along was now melted just right for drinking.
どうかした？
セツミ！
びっくりした。
私は今猛烈に感動してるのよ。まさかこんな場所にお弁当持参で来てくれる子がいるとは。ありがとね。
抱きつかないで。
ちょっとオーバーだったかしら。
And so we began eating lunch together. Himiko-san got off the bed and we sat in folding chairs next to each other. By the way, Himiko-san's lunch, even though it was the 7th floor, didn't look at all different from the food in the other wards. I wondered if it would have been extremely luxurious, but it was what would you call a plain hospital lunch. Compared to that, my lunch, which mother had put effort into making, spicy fried tofu, lots of croquettes, it was very lively.
ねえねえ、一つもらっていい？
どうぞ。
いただきます。でっから、これカレーコロッケね。
It wasn't supposed to be all that spicy, but Himiko-san drank far too much water.
大丈夫？
実は私って辛いの超苦手なのよね。
Like her normal image, some tears were in her eyes. She looked so pitiful. I decided to tell her what was in them.
これが野菜コロッケ。
はい。
そっちはかぼちゃ。手前のは肉コロッケよ。
もしかして見ただけで中身がわかるの？
I gave her a nod at her words. So to show the half believing, half doubting Ani-san, I split open the croquette with my chopsticks.
合ってるわよ。
なんでわかるのよ。外見全く同じなのに。
全く同じってわけでもないわ。
少なくとも私には見分けつかないわね。ねえ、もしかしてコロッケに詳しいの？
別に。
I didn't think it was all that amazing myself. Basically, from eating them every day, I just learned to pick out the little differences between the outsides.
ごちそうさまでした。
Once our meal was finished, I placed the now empty lunchbox once again into the tote
ね
bag.
え、コロッケ博士。
はい。
食後のアイスに行かない？博士も。
Could it be that Professor Croquette meant me?
変なあだ名つけないでよ。
気に入らなかったみたいね。
Beyond the windows that could only open 15 centimeters wide was the summer sky. The voices of noisily crying cicadas and Himiko-san's bright laughing voice rang out in the narrow room. There always bright and cheery was Himiko-san. And just maybe I too was smiling. Afterwards, we passed the time as usual in the room. When we parted, as I was making to leave the 7th floor,
ちょっと
turning around, there was an Oni-san I didn't know. A cute frilly skirt, a red apron, and a rosary on her chest left an impression. Other helpers I've seen before wore the same aprons. That probably meant this person was also a helper.
私に何か。ここは関係者か肉親以外ご遠慮いただいているのですが、それともどちらかのご家族の方でしたか？
For a moment I thought about how to answer and then slowly opened my mouth.
姫子って人の友達。あなたが友達？そう言われているわ。何？いえ、なんでもないです。失礼しました。
With those words, the Oni-san once again went off somewhere. What was that just now? It was probably a helper, but... Around when the sun had completely set and today's dinner was ending,
まあ綺麗に食べてくれたのね。
with the empty lunchbox, Mother looked pleased.
じゃあ明日からも作ってあげるわね。
ありがとう。
Truth was Himiko-san had eaten the fries from me, but I wasn't able to reveal that. Once I opened the window in the room, I felt a bit of cool night wind come in. My room, by the window, the sailor uniform was drying. The sweltering summer heat made me want to turn on the air conditioner, but when I thought about father, who still hadn't come home yet, I stopped. Come to think, Himiko-san. Then she was really vague about it, but I wondered if planting flowers in the flower bed without permission would cause her any problems. On top of that, the story from before about how she did need a helper, now no one came to visit her, was also mysterious. Name Himiko Libra, blood type AB. ID bracelet color was white. I still probably didn't know anything about Oni-san. Okay, how long is this chapter? I think this chapter is quick. Okay, I'll do this one too. The next day, today, we ate our lunch in a different place. In a deserted lounge while watching the daytime news and personally playing on the television we ate.
やっぱこのコロッケ美味しいわね。
Today again, Himiko-san seemed to want the dishes in my lunch. I also knew the hospital food was bad. So on top of the table, my lunch and Himiko-san's hospital meal were spread out and the two of us ate together.
次は野菜コロッケが欲しいんだけど。右端のよ。はーい。ありがとう、説明博士。もう教えてあげない。冗談だって、冗談。
As we made these little exchanges around when today's lunch came to an end,
以前から気になってたんだけど、もしかして嫌いなの？
as she spoke, she pointed at the fries in the
結
lunchbox.
局、昨日も私一人でポテト食べたじゃない。嫌い。じゃあ、どうして入ってるの？
How should I answer? I debated a bit and decided to tell the truth.
好きだと思っているから、お母さんは。あなたも大変そうね。
Probably even with just that, my meaning went through. It was just like before with the clothes. For some reason, Himiko-san seemed to see through to the heart of things. However, the words that Himiko-san spoke next was clearly in a different tone of voice.
でもそれは優しさじゃないわよ。まだあなたには理解できないでしょうけど、相手を気遣っているつもりなら大間違いね。
Mistake, not kindness? At the very least, those words weren't directed at Mother, but probably towards me. Right and wrong. If it's that, I understand. Even I don't think not saying how I really feel is right. Then, was it that revealing the truth was kindness? To say what Mother had gone through for my sake was something I actually hated would be kindness? Afterwards, I was asked to go shopping at the store for Himiko-san. As I left the elevator on the 7th floor and was again headed to the lounge.
あれ
In the hallway just before the lounge, I saw Himiko-san talking to someone. I was sure that person was the helper that had spoken to me the other day. I thought about going up and speaking to them as the two of them spoke, but for some reason, sensing that it wasn't that kind of atmosphere, I couldn't help but watch from afar.
ほら今日の分の点滴まだなんだから。
分かってるわよ。今から帰るとこだって。
それと午後からの入浴の仕方だけど。
千尋、私が知らないとでも思って。
別にそんな意味じゃ。
だったら余計な気遣いは無用よ。あなた
Go back to your assignment. And the unknown only said left it like that. Without a doubt, that was the person who spoke to me the other day.
ねえ今の人は。
ただのヘルパーよ。
An answer as if she were pushing something aside. To me, from the explanation I heard about the helpers on the 7th floor, I thought they were very admirable. And yet, looking at Himiko-san, it didn't seem like she felt that way. Especially with the person just now, I felt like she had even been cold. Perhaps seeing that I wanted to say something, Himiko-san entered the lounge before us, and sitting in a sofa, she offered the chair facing her.
実は私もヘルパーやってたことあるのよ。
ここで。
だから知り合いなのよ。
That was unexpected. For me, the bright, cheery Himiko-san and the image of a helper just wouldn't connect. At the least, my image of the helpers on the 7th floor was that they were always calm and collected. But if I thought about it, a part of it did fit. Patients on the 7th floor, unlike patients at other wards, were in a way given freedom. However, even among them, I had thought Himiko-san was special. For some reason, it felt as if she was allowed to get away with even more. The questions I had before about planting in the garden without permission, how she said she didn't need an assigned helper, how she would randomly give friendly nods to doctors and nurses. Surely because she had been a helper before in this hospital, she had probably been allowed more.
ねえ一つ質問していい？どうしてヘルパーやってたの？
This time I tried voicing my next question. Even if it were true that Himiko-san had been previously a helper, why she would work as one, I couldn't imagine. At the least, from what I knew about Himiko-san, I thought she would be indifferent to something like volunteering or being a
う
helper.
ちはカトリックだからね。
カトリック。
ええ。私の両親もそうだけど、こういう福祉活動にはよく参加するのよ。
That was an even more unexpected answer. Of course, I myself knew absolutely nothing about Christians or religious matters. But even then, compared to the helper just before, I felt that religion was even further from an image of
それ
Himiko-san.
にほら、ここってキリスト教病院でしょ？
それは知ってる。
だから余計にね。
She spoke as if that were the answer to everything. Certainly, I hadn't really considered it up to now. But now that she mentioned it, I did occasionally see people who looked like priests and sisters. But still, for us normal sick people, there were few things that we noticed about the kind of hospital it was. Instead of those details, whether there was specialization in surgery or whether there was a famous internist present from those the hospital would be chosen. However, for the people who worked there, was probably a huge difference.
でも所詮私はエセカトリックよ。
そうなの。
偶然教会の隣に家があったってだけだし。
Miko-san answered her usually cheery way. Whether those words were the truth or a lie, I didn't know. However, just that time her gaze shifted into the window. In that profile I would see clearly, I thought there was some denial of those words.
でもね、まさか逆に自分が7階に入るとは思わなかったわ。やっぱバチが当たったのかもしれないわね。
When the long summer day slowly ended, unusually father was home early, so today our family of 3 ate dinner together. Since we moved, his commute lengthened, and it has been a while since the three of us gathered around the dinner table like this. Oh, made a friend? Yes, that's why lately. Yes, that's why lately she's been going out every day. Isn't that great, Satsumi? At my making a friend, father also became happy. I'm pretty sure that because my health has been well lately, father was even more pleased. Before, the three of us would always eat dinner together, but now because she comes home late, mother and I together was normal. There were also times when she would come home late from her part-time job and I would eat alone. That was the norm now. Since that day 3 years ago, days of going in and out of hospital, Sumiko-san said that she herself was being punished. Then did I also do something wrong and was being punished? Just what kind of wrong did I commit? And the other one was being punished was it myself or my parents or perhaps
どう
both?
かした説明。
なんでもない。
Opening the window, even in the stuffy heat, the night breeze felt nice. There were many things I didn't understand, but if it were being punished, then who is doing the punishing? And if I said I'm sorry to that person, would we be forgiven? I, who would silently eat fries, had also been called unkind, and Himiko-san, who for some reason came close to me. Until now, outside of family, others have done the reverse and avoided me. I'm sure that's true for her also. It was because there was no one else, so probably it was because she was bored. Okay, that is the end of this story. Let's see, okay, yeah, that's the end for me, end of the stream. Okay, I'm gonna exit this now. Thank you for watching this stream. I hope you have a nice day. Maybe I'll stream a bit more later. I don't know. Let me check who to raid. Okay. Twitch.tv. Okay. Cafe Feco. Okay, I will raid Cafe Feco. Okay, bye everyone.